This Saturday we are going to be covering the figure and character turnarounds that I assigned as homework last week. We are going to be covering a little bit of what I see on what I'm showing you on screen right here, which is using these simple shapes, these simple geometric shapes, to animate your characters. And I'm going to be demonstrating how to utilize these kinds of simple geometric shapes to animate very complex things. I'll be doing a little demonstration of that to get you started this week with this week's assignment. This week's assignment will be literally using these shapes to move them around, usually by limb, but if you feel comfortable, you can try for a figure or something like that. But I want people to get comfortable with using the mechanics of these, basically. And aside from that, we're also going to be taking a look at like Sakuga animation from Sakuga Baruch today. So what I want people doing is we're going to be doing a little bit of sketching, a little bit warming up right now. I want people who have submitted the homework, who are in my... I will be prioritizing homework review of the people who are present currently, who have submitted homework in the classroom chat in Ethan Becker's Discord. So if you have homework that you want critique on, you can share it there. It can be the homework from this last week, or it can be some kind of animation thing you want critique on that isn't necessarily the homework that we had. And I'm going to open the window here because it is roasting hot in this room. Let me install that air conditioner. But so this class should be pretty chill, pretty fun. And I think after this class there's going to be a drawing. Hang on one sec. I don't have my headphones on, so I can't hear if somebody's talking. Okay, I'm back. So, I think the Come and Draw Discord might be doing something today. Let me just check real quick. See if they are. And if they are, we will cut off the class about when they're going to start on that. Let me see if they got a Come and Draw posting right now. Or the drink and draw thing. Oh, there's the Come and Draw. Where do they usually post that? Collab. Huh. Well, we'll see what they're up to around like in about a couple hours or so, and if they're doing anything, we can move from that to there. I think they normally do these things every other week. Let me actually ask them. Is there draw search today? And we'll find out. So anyway, let's get to it. So, so this week, this is what we've been doing. Let me adjust the music. The music's kind of getting away with my thoughts there. So, this last week, I had people do basically this. You could also have done a more anatomical version of this because we did do like some torso anatomy when I assigned this. So you could have done this with a more anatomical torso or something. But I also said like you can do it like with the torso, you can do it with a head, you can do it with a full character figure like this. But I want an animated turnaround, and I showed a demonstration of how to do that in 32 frames on 2s. And so I want to see what people have done with that. And so the homework from this, the main homework from this class, for anyone who's done the turnaround already, is to, if I give you feedback on the turnaround, try to do some fixes for it. Or start a new one. But that you can submit again for homework next week if you want to keep going with this. I would recommend keep going with it would be a good idea to keep going with doing more turnarounds because you'll start to increase your spatial awareness. In fact, some of what we're doing today with the basic shapes that we're using is kind of related to this. But yeah, like we're basically going to be playing with like volumetric 3D shapes today to, you know, create figures and create and like use them as building blocks to create motion. I want people to play with these because there's a tendency to kind of like, you know, get a little too loosey-goosey with your structure for figures sometimes when you're animating early on, especially when you're learning how to draw. So I'm trying to approach this in a way that gives people a chance to really slow down and construct and think about their shapes, and then from there they can start pushing things, be more gestural and playful with it. I want people to be more measured so they clear out the noise in their head when they're animating, basically, with what we're going to be doing. And then there will be times to get sketchy and loose and crazy and stuff. But I want people to like have like a frame of measurement that they can fall back on. Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah, I just found out from Lord Spew of Come and Draw. They're pushing their draw sesh to next week, so we'll save that for next week. We'll probably just raid somebody after the end of the stream. So the name of the game today is going to be Having Fun Drawing, and we're also going to be having fun experimenting with animating using these things. I'm going to give you guys some instructions on stuff you can do with these, with the help of my good buddy Richard Williams and the Animators Survival Kit, because he's got some good stuff on little exercises you can do with simple shapes and stuff, kind of in this vein. These are a little bit more complex than the shapes that he has, but I'm having it that way. But you can use the shapes that he has in his book if you want. I'm using these because I'm trying to get used to drawing these. Like these are kind of more on the anatomical end of construction and stuff. But you can use much simpler shapes, kind of like what Richard Williams does for the thing that I'm going to show you guys when we get to that. So, so let's take a look and see if someone's posted any of their homework for review yet. I'll take a look in the homework section of the animation section of the homework Discord. Only one person posted a turnaround. Tisk. So I definitely still can give feedback on this, and I'll do that in a little bit. But I think we'll move to that after we've gotten a good amount of warm up. Let's see if there's anything else that people posted here. Yeah, that's the only submission I got. That's weird because there was a lot of other people that said they were working on their turnarounds. I guess they just didn't submit them in time. So yeah, it's no biggie. Yeah, if you do have a turnaround you'd like feedback on, or if you have something that's not a turnaround, that's a piece of animation that you've done that you'd like feedback on, please feel free to post. So, what I want people doing now is I want to introduce you to what the shapes that we're going to be using for tonight. Here's one of the shapes right here. This is, of course, the sphere. The sphere can also be turned into kind of an egg shape and stuff. Sometimes there will be directional markers on the sphere like this to show like where it's angled, or usually like if it's a head or something, it's going to be something like that. But not always. One of the other shapes we're going to be using is the irregular shape, the irregular organic shape, the megabone that I like to call. It's this super simplified shape that basically functions like it has a sphere embedded here and a sphere embedded here. And there's this kind of stretchy mass between the spheres. It's almost like you've taken like ends of like a wad of clay or silly putty or something and stretched it out. But these become basically like parts of the body. You can use them as like Legos, basically, or construction pieces to construct a body. Another piece that we're going to be using, and it's kind of related to that last one, is the torso piece. You can use one of those kind of shapes similar to that for the torso, sort of like this. But we do pay special attention to the torso. We're going to pay special attention to this kind of pinch. It's going to be happening like right around here at the bottom of the rib cage or so. In the rib cage. Like so. When it's from side view. It's usually kind of a hard angle pinch. You want to pay attention to the torso when it stretches out on one side like this, and where it kind of really pinched, and when that pinch really happens here. Like, think of it like a flower. Think of it like a sack of flour or something. There's the neck insertion point right there. But we need like a really kind of simple shape for the torso that kind of feeds into the way we're drawing these. So let me just show you how, like, I'll just walk you through like a quick figure to show you like how this all comes together. So usually I start with the torso, or some can sometimes start with just a limb and just start building off it, but I'm going to start with the torso for this one. So I'm going to decide that this one, I'm going to put like a center line like here, so we get kind of like a 3/4 thing going on with the torso kind of facing over that way a bit. And I'm going to actually like draw a line down to the ground to give me kind of a center of balance right here, to sort of do a ellipse down here at the bottom, so about somewhere where I think the feet are going to be. The top of the head's probably going to be somewhere about there. That'll help me keep proportions accurate. So this will be the bottom of the crotch or so. So I want to make this equidistant to this, basically. Where the feet end up is about equidistant from the top of the head, to the pit of the crotch, and from the pit of the crotch to the bottom of the feet. So anyway, now that we have like this kind of basic measurement established for the proportions, we can start playing with putting the limbs on. And you don't have to be super fancy with it. You can just like place these however you want. You might want to use like a line of action, for example, to tie them together, but generally the bottom of that upper arm joint is going to come about where this little pinch is. Pinches the bottom of the rib cage there in the torso. So I'm going to have these little shapes overlap a little bit, because they're kind of an arm joint. But where this wrist ends up is going to be about the bottom of the pit of the crotch. So we're thinking about proportions here. And what do? Do the same thing on the other side here. Of course, because this is the opposite side here, and this torso is turned slightly away from us, this other arm is going to be slightly behind the body a bit. Bottom of the arm comes down over there. We're using these simplified, like kind of sausage, hot dog, clay log shapes to sort of establish the figure. We can also sculpt them a bit, like here I just carved a little section off here to change the shape of the pelvis to something more to my liking. Like that. These don't have to be perfect either, because these are just a scaffolding to create your figures and stuff. So then we get like this kind of hand down. So the hand will be like about this long, a little bit shorter than like how the head would be. We should have actually established the head first, so that's gonna kind of bite us in the ass a little bit, but that's okay. I'm going to guesstimate. I'm actually going to increase the height of where the head occurs here. put like an ellipse in there. This is the direction that the ellipse is facing. This is the side plane of the head, this little kind of crash test dummy disc on the side of the sphere of the head. I'm creating this little triangle wedge here for like the brow down to the nose, right there. So I just want something that's kind of a working head here. So I have that, I can kind of like get the neck opening in there and get that one of those sausage shapes in there for the neck. So now that I got this, I'm going to make some adjustments from the top of the head to the crotch, top of the head to the crotch to the feet. That means I have to extend the legs out a little bit. Maybe even slightly further than I anticipated. Possibly about here. So I'm going to use these two spheres here for the hip joints, basically. And remember, you're thinking of the figure as like a 3D model here. So I'm going to add these giant oblong shapes for the thighs. These are going to be like from here to here. Should be about from here to here. Or actually, no, from the pit of the neck here. Pit of the neck. Let's add that. It comes a little bit down there. Should be about from the pit of the neck to the crotch. So these go down to about here. This should be equidistant to this, roughly. So I'm pointing this kneecap over this way and this kneecap over this way because these legs are at slightly different angles from each other. And this kneecap kind of overlaps a little bit with the joint at the bottom of the leg. And I'm using these like simple sausage shapes. It's not. This is not the anatomy of how the leg actually works or the arms and stuff. This is a mannequin that we're making here, a shorthand mannequin. So I'm going to aim this foot about here. Create some ellipses on the floor for like how the foot is placed there. Create an ellipse right here. Correlate that ankle with the other ankle in 3D space. And I can correlate the heel with the other heel there. Like almost like I'm drawing like a little kind of thing across the floor to sort of guide where the feet are going to be placed. Because these shapes are occupying 3D space. That means the feet have to be planted. And you have to think about how the feet are planted on the ground when you draw them. This guy looks a little... Let's flip him real quick to see... Oh yeah, I thought so. I have to tilt him very slightly. The angle that I'm drawing at is very slightly off, so it's kind of throwing it off a little bit. That's easy to adjust. Let's maybe add some more heel here. This side to give more stability. But this is the basic puppet that we're using for our animation. You don't necessarily have to draw something as elaborate as this every time you draw individual poses. You can draw something much simpler when you're trying to work out the motion or something. But you want to keep proportions of your character in mind. This is a basic proportionate 8 head high, roughly, figure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's about 8. Roughly about 8 or 7.5 heads high, if I had to guesstimate. But the point of using these kind of oblong shapes and stuff is you can get really inventive and expressive with them. You don't have, you can like, you can play with, you can play with them as Tinker Toys and stuff. And you can treat them like, you can treat them like a 3D model rig. Even like using the lasso, well, you can redraw them into different positions easily. You can also like use tools like this to kind of change their position or move them around and stuff. Like, oh, I just changed the angle of that arm there, and now I'm going to rotate from the center point of that arm there, right here. And in fact, we're going to be using a little bit of that today when we get to the actual animation stuff. Like, I want people doing a mix of a little bit of this kind of changing position stuff, using like lasso tool and stuff like that, to kind of like see how they can see the power of how they can use this stuff to reposition limbs and so on, but also to redraw it. Maybe look for opportunities for where you would redraw something versus where you would rotate the limb, and at least use the rotated limb as a starting point. Maybe if like to redraw something. So the cool thing about this this method that we're going to be using is it's very modular. So you can put any kind of information you want into it, or add additional shapes and additional anatomical information to it. Like, here's me playing with some stuff that's a little bit closer to the anatomical shapes of the arms. Still mannequinized and almost kind of like robot arms a little bit. This is a little bit more of me playing with kind of the similar sort of idea. Okay. This is much more elaborately anatomical. Yeah, you should try to have fun with these figures and these little oblong shapes and limbs and stuff. As you can use them to build just about anything. You can sketch freely with them. You can get precise with them. They're really useful for constructing hands, especially if you're like going up from the metacarpals like I do. Next week we're gonna definitely try to see if we can get some hands in. Like, this method of drawing right here lends itself really well to hands, because you're essentially drawing knuckles right here. These shapes, the same kind of shapes that you would be drawing, like the bones and of the knuckles of the hand. So when you get down to the hand, it can be a little bit easier to handle the structure of the hand, because you've already practiced like drawing these long ass limbs. You're just zeroing down more of what you do. But yeah, you can use this as a starting point to kind of plug in anatomy, like I did here with when I was referencing some anatomy reference of an arm. There's some more invented arms, kind of playing with like bicep and tricep and stuff. What I kind of want to do, I want to this method that we're using to draw. In the future, I have a mini project that I'm going to be giving us. There's going to be weekly homework assignments for animated anatomy, where we're going to be using a method kind of like this to draw and animate muscle groups, muscle and bones, and how they move. And this is the method that I'm kind of developing right now with that in mind. Yeah, like I said, it's a very modular thing. Like this is an example here I did yesterday with these limbs. If you know something that's out of proportion, it's pretty easy to notice if something is out of proportion. Like that thigh is still pretty long, but I resized these limbs here from the original. More importantly, this is a really fun way to draw, well, at least for me. You should try to chase whatever is like satisfying for you to draw, because that means you're going to be getting a lot more mileage doing it. So this is something that's working for me, and I hope that it works for a lot of you guys. You can try it out and try combining it maybe with other things that are more suited to you currently. But I do recommend giving this a go, because it'll keep things pretty simple when we get to the actual animating stuff. Because it's instead of turning a really complicated shape in 3D space, like if you're let's say like you're turning one of these let's say you got like an arm, but like a forearm here. Well, all you need to do to like animate turning that in space is like just move the endpoints of those kind of spheres that are embedded inside that kind of stretchy mass closer together, like that. You can even get like straight on with it, like eventually like it might point directly. This is like a hand that's a hand. This is like a hand that's pointing directly, a forearm that's pointing directly at the camera here. And it's an illusion trick. Like this shape is not actually doing this, but we've decided that it does, and we can add more signifiers to make this more obvious. Like for example, I've decided the direction of this is going this way, so that means the hand is going to go like this and stuff. Decided that the ellipses here going this way, so the hand is facing more towards us here, and then this is facing us straight on. I'm going to make like a palm wedge that's like aimed right at us, maybe. I'll put like a palm wedge there now. Turn that palm wedge more towards us and so on. But you get the idea, like instead of having to like confound yourself with really super complex 3D shapes, you can you just have like this to concentrate on. Look at this. Like I've decided that this thing is hinging here, and this is the pathway that this part of it is taking. It's going to become foreshortened when it comes up here, because it's pointing more towards us, but it's going to be hinging still on that original anchor point. It's foreshortened because it's pointing towards us, but it is following an arc and a pathway up here. See? And we're actually going to get to animate this kind of stuff a little bit this evening. But for now, I want people getting comfortable with this approach. Also, again, if you have any animation you'd like feedback on, please submit it in the classroom chat. And also let me know if I haven't noticed it yet. So I do know that there's a lot of people that actually tried the turnaround, but we only had one submission.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
Hi, by the way. I just posted my work in progress in classroom chat.
Goody. Yeah, even if it's incomplete, feel free to post it, because like a lot of people are doing these for the first time, or some people are kind of getting a bit stuck and frustrated, I'm sure, because turnarounds are really tough. They're not. I threw you guys an animation hard mode assignment last week. I'm occasionally going to throw you guys in the deep end. This week, you're going to get to dip your toes in something that's a lot easier. But that will also help you when you are doing more complex turnaroundy stuff. There we go. Gus posted your turnaround. Okay, cool. And Nitro guy, yeah, I already saw yours from I saw yours from the Discord. So Like the first thing I'm going to say about all the homework assignments, anyone who's already done one of these this week, do it again, but do it with just simple, clear shapes, like what we're doing here. Like take your turnaround, make your fixes. When you make your fixes, use these shapes that we're practicing today on your turnaround, and try to eliminate any kind of wobble or inconsistency that's kind of going off basically. Fortunately, the simplicity of the shapes will make it a lot easier to do that. I just sworn I had an antacid. I don't think I did I? Give me one sec. All right. So for the people who did do the turnaround, good for you. Your next step is I want you using these shapes when you make your fixes. I'll do some direct feedback for the people who submitted in a little bit. But in fact, I'm going to do. Let's maybe grab Gus's real quick. Let's see if can I actually import that into Clip Studio. I don't think I can I?
I can upload the Clip Studio file.
Yeah, that would help. I think I can import the GIF. Let's see here. I think I might have to in the future figure out a format that might successfully let me easily import stuff to do critique on. But let's see if we can do that. There might be like import movie or something.
Should I upload it as a GIF format or as a Clip Studio, like the
Yeah,
original file?
Nitro guys, if there's any way you can upload an MP4 file of that, I'd appreciate. Or if you have a Clip Studio file. But yeah, Gus, are you the one who yeah, Gus.
Yeah, I'm the one who. It's me.
Yeah, yeah, Gus. Yeah, upload a Clip Studio file.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, I'm uploading it. It took me a minute because I had to reduce the file size below 8 megabytes, but I sent it.
Yeah, no problem. Just a little quick warm up thing here. This is kind of related to what I'm going to be demonstrating in a little while. All right. There we go. So I see that you put a lot of effort into this. You really tried to construct your shapes with this character and stuff. I'm not going to necessarily give character design feedback, but let's take a look at your turnaround. Let's see what you got. I think you did a good job so far. I'm going to go through it a few times to really see if there's anything that sticks out to me as something you really need to fix. But a good way to check that would be when you do like in between turnarounds and stuff. Okay, I'm gonna try like paying attention to different areas of the character to see what's going, if there's anything going screwy. So the hand, okay, so one thing I'm seeing is the hand here kind of goes a bit high here, and then kind of goes down a bit for some of these. So watch that. I think the head is mostly working for me. It does look like there's a little bit of a 2D cheat on her or eye tilt there to me, but that doesn't really bother me. It looks like a stylization thing to me. Her eye might be a little bit far to the right here, I think. Like, move her eye just very slightly to the left. It's hard for me to say though. Yeah, but the eye needs to be moved like slightly to the left, I would say, or try to figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah, the eye needs to be there. When I flip this, it does look a little strange. Some really messy thing. There's some. Her eye is like smaller here than it is here. It's a little bit narrow there. Watch those eye sizes. You can see a little bit better when you can see it when you flip it. Like, do a lot of flipping like this stuff. I realize that she's asymmetrical when she's straight on a little bit, but watch out for that. No, it actually looks better when I see it in motion. Like, these are like very small tweaks, I think.
Do you think the one thing that was bothering me was the legs? One person who I asked for feedback said that whenever she flips, the leg in which she is putting her weight changes because, like, straight on, she is balanced, but when looked at 3/4, she is putting more weight into one of the legs.
Yeah, you kind of screwed yourself by giving her a hip tilt for this turnaround. So she's asymmetrical in the turnaround. I think it would have been fine if you decided that okay, she's got a symmetrical stance. This is like that's usually the way you want to go about it for just like your basic turnaround. There are times when you might want to do an asymmetrical thing, but like for the purposes of a model sheet rotation, you don't necessarily want to do that.
Makes sense, yeah.
Because you're just trying to understand like a basic proportional puppet of how it looks from a full rotation. Like, you're not necessarily going to make things too horribly asymmetrical for like a simple posed model sheet, and then you can flip it and add the details for the turn.
There can be a difference between the model sheet, I mean the turnaround, and like a concept for the character where you pose the character in like a way that makes sense for them.
And because of what you're talking, like, well, because of what that person mentioned is happening here, you get kind of a little lost and confused here because you're not really quite you put a lot of energy, I think, into placing those legs there, but then like you kind of, oh shit, how do I construct these? Well, that's where you revert to simple shapes, and then it's not about getting the thing on the model and stuff. Like, you can use shapes like the ones that we're using today, kind of go in there, and now you're not worried about like tracking to the model and stuff. You're worried about tracking these shapes. and getting those feeling like they have weight and stuff to them. Then you can come back later and get stuff like on model. You'd use shapes like that or some other kind of tool similar to that to clear the noise out of your head. Because I see you kind of struggling. How do I get it on model from this angle here? Well, you haven't done that yet. You haven't figured that out because you're designing this character, and so you run into this drawing problem that you haven't solved yet. And so now, like stuff like this, like the ankle is thickening up here because you aren't really sure about how to do that. This is where you're supposed to work out those problems, and the way you want to work those out is you want to take things back to really basic shapes of some kind, thin them out and stuff. Just get like some basic trackable hinges and stuff, and then you can get those tracking and working, and then you go back and you get it on model how you need it.
Awesome. That would be a lot less confusing than the way I was doing it.
What you can do too is you can take a key pose and then you can break down those shapes into it. Okay, these are the shapes that I'm going to use for this thing here. Like this is the shape for this, and then this is the shape for the calf. That little bulge calf is just going to be like an egg ellipse in the back of the leg. So then instead of like drawing, or you can like use even simpler shapes than this. Like you could be doing something like just like one oblong shape for the whole joint, the whole leg, like. And that's like this kind of bony, bulgy thing. It does this a bit when it kind of. And you can maybe design something like this that has like a little bit closer to the feel of her thing, but it's okay if you go away from her model because you're just trying to get these tracking, basically. Trying to get something doofy and easy to make sense of. So you can use that as your point of reference for how you handle the figure.
Right.
So we know that that leg's going away from us. You know this leg's going towards us and stuff. You can work out stuff like that when you're doing those kind of doofy shapes and stuff. I guess I'll leave this in there. I should be leaving this in here. Let me save like a demo version of this. Save as desktop, class demos.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Who said hello?
Oh, I did.
Oh, welcome.
Hi, I'm new. I don't know what this is.
We are doing animation stream on Twitch.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Yeah, actually, I should start the webcam so then people can see in real time what I'm doing. There we go. So I was actually thinking of, like, they're not doing the come and draw thing after the class session tonight, but I was thinking of doing our own. I have a couple ideas for that. We'll think about that. I might just need some rest tonight. Might be good to just do that. But anyway, yeah, just like literally go back and then just make it about tracking those simple shapes, and make sure those shapes feel like they are nicely balanced. Make sure they feel like they make sense and they aren't going wonky. Then it's not about the detail of the character anymore. Like for example, I think on this pose right here, she looks like she's about to fall over forward to me. Like
Yeah,
when I
someone
put the
else
center,
pointed that out.
yeah, when I
too.
put the center of balance here. So the center of balance, so the tracking lines. Remember we did this before in a class that I think you attended. The way you can track the center of balance on a character is usually like the space between the jawline and the ear down to the floor plane.
Oh, actually, there is a group of layers that I think are turned off right now that are guides that I set up to help with that.
Okay, if you can screenshot that, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Give me a second.
Yeah. But yeah, we can immediately tell from this that this knee maybe needs to be over here a little bit more. Like, we need something a little bit more like it's fine for her to be like dynamic and stuff, but we need something a little bit more like we need something that like feels a little bit more balanced for her. Just this, this, and there's like her thigh goes around like that, calf goes around like that. Foot will be somewhere around here, say. And if you want to see examples of this, just look for existing model sheets that might have like stylized female characters like this that have turnarounds, and see how they balance them. Good ones from like good productions and stuff, not like shitty little amateur things or whatever. So I am drawing over your work here. I probably should have made new layers, but you can have this to refer to. In addition to your original.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Let's see
Actually,
here.
this is helping a lot.
Let's see what else we got.
That pose right at the 3/4 from the back is the one I'm most insecure about, probably.
Yeah. I think you handled this area here pretty nicely. This feels pretty nice. It feels like it has like that kind of rhythm to it, of like the shoulder blades right there a little bit. So even though you kind of are insecure about it, it's feeling like it's. What reference were you using for this, by the way?
Oh, hold up, I can share it. I had the reference of an artist named Dylan Ekron, who makes really nice designs with really good shapes to them. And I had a different reference for the actual turnaround that someone linked to me on Tumblr, like
Right.
a post describing how to do it step by step. I can share both on the chat.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, her hand kind of jumps up there, I think. It's like up. It's up. I think her hand is a little high in general, honestly. Like the hand should be down a little bit. Like should be down like. Kind of feels like it should be down just slightly, because the forearm feels a little long to me. Maybe even like thin from a character design standpoint. Maybe even thin out a bit. I don't know. Actually, I kind of like her thick upper arms. She looks like she's pretty built. She's got kind of a kickboxer physique-ish. I want to say female kickboxer physique. She's got developed triceps. Not triceps. Why am I brain farting for this muscle? Trapezius. She's got a developed trapezius back there. Her upper arms are well developed. She does kind of have like that shape to her arms that like female athletes do. Let's see. Yeah, the BAM animation turnaround thing. That definitely is a big help. Yeah, definitely like you made this forearm too long, because we can tell that because look at how short this is compared to that. So watch out for stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, if you want to test stuff like that, what you can do is like you can like make a little model like that, and then you can like copy paste this over. Check, you know. That's also where like the whole 3D treating the figure shapes as a 3D model thing comes in handy.
And I also shared some pictures of the artists I was referencing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. I think you made a good effort, and I definitely looks like you learned some stuff doing this for sure, and I want you to keep developing it, because these things are not easy, and you will get a lot out of continuing to fix it. Like I said, I want you to go through the whole thing and use simple shapes and make sure that they are tracking it. Give each of the simple shapes that's moving around like the care and attention to make sure that it's moving around properly in 3D space. Like watch those feet placement right there. Watch the feet placement, because like, let me show you an example in mine. You see how like well, first of all, I kept Spacedad's feet like really simple right here, but I'm like I'm tracking these to kind of like an oval shape that's on the ground, basically.
Yeah, and you can build off of them. Like,
Yeah, and
in order to get the
I
placement
gave
right.
each of the sections of the body its attention to make sure it looks like it's rotating in 3D space. If it's and that things aren't going too wonky. Also kept it rough and loose. Like, this is loose enough so that like I could tie this down with more serious shapes. In fact, that might be my homework for this week. To like take this and develop it a little bit more. I think that would be good homework for me, because I'm actually planning on using this character design for some animation coursework I'm going to be doing next month in that class I'm taking. So yeah, I think that will be my homework. That will be my main homework this week, to develop that turnaround, in addition to the other kind of playing with the hinge joints stuff. So let's see. Nitro Guy, if you can submit if you can make an MP4 or an MP4 file of your thing. But I mean, like, the same sort of thing. This, so your animation right here looks like you were doing a more anatomical thing. I think that there's a lot of stuff that's kind of going a bit wonky here. Like, it's kind of rocking around and side to side. It looks like you were using photo reference from a turnaround, which is good. It's fine. But as you can see, there's a lot of weird proportional stuff that's kind of warping and happening. The model's also changed. The model was like also turning physically around, I think. So their center of balance was changing slightly when they were turning. The other thing is that I don't think you're quite understanding how 3D shapes work for these, because this doesn't really feel. This feels a little bit flat to me. There are parts of it that are a little bit 3D-ish, but you need to go through and give like attention to like simplifying you need to do what I was showing here, where you start with very simple 3D shapes and you get them working and rotating, and give them the attention they deserve to get them working and stuff. You make sure that they're not kind of going wonky all over the place and stuff. You can do an initial sketch pass, but then you can't you would need to then go in and tie down those individual shapes, so they're not like they're not going all wonky. So what I'm gonna say for you, you could try correcting this week, but honestly, I think it would be a better idea for you to try doing your own cartoon character turnaround, but keep the shapes really simple. Start with some kind of a basic figure puppet where you're no longer necessarily like rotating a really complex anatomical figure right here, where you're going to get lost in the individual pieces. Try to find like a simple cartoon character figure that you can rotate in 3D space. Kind of like along these lines or something. But you want to make sure that those pieces that are rotating really feel like they're rotating in 3D space. You can keep it rough too, like I did here. But you want to make sure that like you're paying attention to the three-dimensionality of it. That means like you want to exercise your three-dimensional understanding of stuff. You can even draw like little, like there's some stuff here that you're not seeing that I did, where I drew like little ellipse lines to make sure that these things were tracking in 3D space. I also used my own judgment, because I have a sense of 3D spatial awareness, to be able to make judgment calls when I would like roll and flip back through this. You want to do a lot of rolling and flipping to check your thing. If something's looking off, that when you scrub through the timeline by rolling and flipping like this, you can quickly notice it and then fix it. So look for stuff that's kind of feels like it's not really, if it's like going off proportion, or if it's going off level, or it's not looking 3D. But examples of 3D, like, let's take a look at the hips here. So the hips I use like a basic sphere, kind of an endpoint for the torso. And then I put two smaller spheres for the calves. The thigh, excuse me, the thighs and the hips, connecting up to the pelvis, basically. So then all I have to do is I have to track two spheres that are like connected kind of to the front around the edges of like the crotch of this sort of sphere as it rotates in space. So that's all I have to track. I don't have to track any kind of super special anatomy thing. And then I also, if you notice, like the front of the torso has a bend to it, and the hips are kind of thrust forward just a little bit. Just a little bit. It does curve down under the rib cage there. But you can see that you can look at the center line here of the torso that bends and that flattens when it becomes straight on. And it accelerates at how much it bends before it finally turns completely away from the camera. Another thing that will definitely help you, actually, is Sketchfab. So Sketchfab, I started a full, well, first off, like there's these, if you want to start with something simple, you can start with like a head for something like this. You can start with like a really simple head, like a Loomis head, or you can do a skull or something. But what you do is you can use this as your reference for doing a rotation. You just like you just do sketches that are imitations of these simple shapes. Like here's about a 3/4, here's a straight on, here's a profile view, here's a 3/4 rear, here's your rear, and so on. And you can use that to plot your to figure out about 3D space where the stuff turns. There's another thing said. There's some other ones here. I've also got a let's see. I'll share these in chat, by the way. I started a torso anatomy reference thing also. I'm going to maybe start a figure one in the near future. But let's grab one of these, like the skeleton, for example. Like you can use this, and maybe if you're doing like simple 3D shapes based on a skeleton, you can use something like this as reference. This one's a little tricky though, because look, its anchor point is like right here. So this would be where like maybe you'd want to find something that has an anchor point somewhere else other than that. Like if you have a 3D model program where you can rotate this around, but just be aware of that. Just like change your center point of where this rotates when you're like make the center point like somewhere around. I would say it's like generally speaking, like the best spot to make the center point for me is the skull sphere. So then everything kind of revolves around the skull sphere. But there are times when like the ribcage or the pelvis or the feet would be the center point of the rotation. But you can definitely see that on, let me see. You can definitely see that on Spacedad here. Like he revolves around his head. Everything kind of revolves around his head right there. And it's the same ellipse the whole way around too. I just add like a jaw on the other side and stuff for it. And if an ellipse is rotating, excuse me, if a sphere is rotating in space, or an egg shape like this is rotating in space, it's not really going to change, is it? It's going to stay mostly in the same spot. You can see that in this. This I did without any reference. I just understand how the 3D shapes work, but I practiced from reference like that stuff I showed you. So if you struggle with 3D shapes, you can use reference like that, or you can use reference from real life. Like if you have ball-shaped things, you want to try rotating and drawing from different angles to understand and stuff. But yeah, so my homework for you is yeah, try for another turnaround. But try to do it with like really simple shapes that track, with a simpler character. You can still use like a live action reference thing, but I would try to simplify it and realize that sometimes the photograph reference is going to cheat you. In fact, let's see here. So on screen right now, there's this really high-end figure turnaround right here from the Masters of Anatomy site. Don't know if they have the full lineup of it available here. There's a few of them here. There's a more kind of superhero-y looking one. But, let's see if I can, yeah, scroll down further. Or Masters of Anatomy turnaround. But if you want some good practice, and I may actually do this week too, you can take like one of these things from the Masters of Anatomy site that has like these full turnarounds. They've done like a full animated version of these too. Animated versions of these. Let me see if I can find it. Here's one of them. That one's fully Inbetweened. This one's like a way more anatomical one. That's crazy.
Jeez. Ridiculous how 3D it looks.
Yeah, but you don't have to go this crazy. I mean, this is really just like polished and cleaned up and stuff. Like, I want people to just, if you wrap your head around understanding like how this stuff works, like this is just a matter of polish and stuff. It's not a GIF. But yeah, like look for the Masters Anatomy stuff, and what I would want you to do is do draw overs over their thing, breaking it down into simple shapes, like very, very simple shapes, and then try doing a turnaround with those simple shapes that you've made from the reference of this yourself. Try to make those shapes turn on their own turn, like turn and rotate on their own terms for you. Like don't get too caught up in the anatomy of this. Like, just use like an egg shape for the rib cage, oval or box for the pelvis, or spheres for the knees, or something, or like those or the oblong shapes that we're using for our stuff. Use very, very simple shapes. Also, if you notice, like this is the little line at the top of his head. That's the anchor point of where the thing is rotating. It looks like he has decided that the anchor point of his character is the head, and that's where it's revolving and rotating around. And that's where the feet kind of correspond with how they're placed to make that more conducive to that. Anyway, so that's my homework for you. Do a much simpler version of that, basically. Don't get caught up in the surface detail. I want you to be rotating shapes, creating and rotating 3D shapes in 3D space. So I'll give that. Gus, remind me later. I'll give you the clip file.
Okay. Thanks again for all the feedback.
Yes. So I was just doing that. I was just doing this little face as a warm up here, but let's see here. I'm gonna save this and do a little animation demo. I'm gonna take a quick water break, real quick. I'll be right back. All right, so get your animation software ready so that you can follow along and take notes. Get whatever animation software you are most comfortable in ready to go. if you need a free piece of animation software, I recommend Blender or OpenTunes, but try to use something that you are familiar with. If you're not familiar with an piece of animation software, make it a priority to digest some tutorials this week to learn how to use a piece of animation software. And I had to block someone DMing me about a NFT, a sweet NFT deal. I can tell. There's also somebody who asked me for feedback on art. If you want feedback on art, post in my Discord. So, that's, anyway, so, what we're going to be doing shortly is we're going to be having some fun moving limbs around in animation. We're going to be using the, we're going to be doing basically a live trial run of what we're going to be doing for animated anatomy stuff. We're going to be using our buddy Richard Williams, the animator. So Richard Williams, those who don't know, a really fucking rad animator. He passed away not that long ago, in 2019. But legendary animator. He is most best known for his work as the animation director on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But he did a lot of other great things in his life, and he taught lots of other people. Whoops. And one of the things he created is this really great book called The Animator's Survival Kit. Now, what we're going to be taking a look at today is we're going to be taking a look at pages like this in The Animator's Survival Kit regarding arm joints. So, one of the things I'm going to strongly suggest kit is that you pick up a copy of this however you can. There's there's ebook versions of this too. Oh, that's an older version. There's also yeah. Huh. Yeah, there's ebook versions of this too if you look around also. And I think there's an electronic version. Yeah, there's an iPad, an iBook version. iBook, Animators Survival Kit. I have a copy of it. The iBook version includes video examples of the animation that's in the book. But this is the complete Animator Survival Kit right here. Just did if you have an iPad that you can play this on, and I think you can also play this on your Mac desktop. You can get it here too. I think there might be a way to read it in Windows, but look into that. Look into how do you read out your iBooks in Windows before you do that, if you're going to get this version of it. This one I'd recommend picking up because you can see the animated examples on the stuff that he shows. There's also a DVD series that shows off the animated examples too. But what we're going to be concentrating on from today is pages like this and this, showing arcs of arm movement. We're going to be using very, very basic shapes to play with posing out arms and treating them like a 3D model or something like that, to create these kind of arced swings and stuff. Where the first part of it swings and then the next part kind of pendulums off of it and stuff. So it'll be a little fun, quick exercise in playing with arcs and using some of our tools as kind of cutout animation. I think this might actually be fun too. We'll take a look. We'll keep this handy as well. But let me see. I'm gonna pick what would be the simplest one to start us with. Maybe an arm swing for the body. So what we're gonna create right now is we're gonna create a basic arm swing. So let's see if I can find a good, clear reference image from the book on Google and search for that. This one's kind of fuzzy, but this does show off what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to link this one in the Discord here. It's a little bit fuzzy and crunchy, but I implore, that's all the more reason for you guys to pick up the actual book in the future. Here's another page on this stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically create a pendulum action. Now, for a pendulum, we need what do we need? We need an anchor point. So in your animation software, I need you to create an anchor point ellipse. Just like that. That's all you need. Just maybe push it up further on the page so we give ourselves more room. Because we're going to be creating like we're going to be creating a back and forth kind of swing motion of an arm as if somebody's walking, basically. So that's our anchor point. This one's going to remain here. We're not going to have to redraw it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, let's see, create a new animation layer. Layer, I think. Animation folder. There we go. All right. So, next thing I want you to do is we're going to create our bones, our mega bones that we're going to be using for our arm joints. So, remember those shapes that I was showing you how to use, like these things right here? Just create one of those. Doesn't matter if it's a little irregular and stuff. Let's create something that's pretty fun. You can then like turn it and resize it a little bit to get it to something that's a little bit more adequate. I'm gonna like do something about like, let's try shrinking it a bit more, something like that. See how big this, yeah. I'm just going to shrink the whole thing, maybe. We'll see. Alright, so now that you have that, you can either create another one of these, or you can do what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy it, create a new animation layer. I'm going to paste it, and panel. Put it on, and I'm going to put this down here. So as a rule of thumb, let's make this a little easier on ourselves. So on this layer right here, I'm creating a little dot right here, and that is what my anchor point is going to be. Anytime I'm rotating this arm, when I'm gonna, whatever animation software you're using, if there's a way for you to create an anchor center point you can hinge on like this, put it about on this little dot here. I'm going to create a blue dot also. And the blue dot is going to go where I'm going to decide this arm is going to hinge, and decide it's going to hinge about here. Actually, let's make it hinge here. No. I think it should hinge actually about here. So this is more like a shoulder joint a little bit. So it's going to be right at the top. So from now on, anytime that I hinge this is going to go up like that. Let me show you a quick trick, by the way. See, I held control here, and I have both of these layers. If there's a way in your animation software to select both of these layers and rotate them at the same time, you can do that. You can do it like that. Then you can put your center point like right here where the base of this is, and you can rotate the whole thing. So that means when I do this initially, I can animate this whole swing like this. And then after I get that working, I can go back in and I can do this animate this as a secondary thing. So it's going to be dragging a little bit behind the upper arm there, you see. So when you have this thing together here, let's maybe throw in like an optional hand. I'm gonna create another layer for like just, it's not gonna have any details on it. It's just gonna be a hand, or like a placeholder hand. I'm gonna create a new animation layer for that. New panel, and I'm gonna create a little simple. Whoops! I'm gonna create a little simple shape. It's about the size of a hand, something like that. And where's that center point, that anchor point going to be of the hand? I'm gonna make it about like here, about like where a wrist would connect, something like that. So now we got this kind of little abomination here. Gonna maybe move it and resize it a little bit here. So this is an arm at rest right there. I'm going to give everyone a little bit of a chance to do some catch-up with what we're doing in their respective animation software. I'm going to encourage people to start labeling the limbs, labeling the segment. I'm going to adjust this a little bit so it's a little bit straight on. So if you have a way to name individual frames, like this is Clip Studio, so like individual frames are layers, therefore I can name the individual frames. Since this is like a starting default pose, I'm going to do that. Because the way that I'm going to be animating this is I'm actually going to be making copies of these and then rotating them on those copies. There are ways to kind of peg it and stuff in Clip Studio, but I'm not going to be doing that today. I'm going to be making new drawings where I rotate these manually. It's a little bit clumsy, but it's something that anyone can do in any animation software. So first thing, I'm gonna get this. This is gonna be hand. I'm gonna put DF. That means default hand. I'm gonna put DF forearm, and I'm gonna put DF up arm. I'm just put up arm. And I can put DF anchor. So remember what I said about the anchor point? The anchor point is not going to move. We're not going to change that at all. We're not going to create new frames for that. That thing's going to show up for the rest of the animation. So actually, when we rotate this, we're not going to include this in our rotation. We're going to be doing this. Oh, one thing I'm probably going to do too. Let's try here. I'm going to do a 200 IQ move here. So I got this little blob right there. I'm going to copy this blob right here. Oops. Paste it in there. Merge select layers. That's weird. Anyway, so what I was trying to like, well, I'll just do it manually. I'm gonna make a little purple dot here that appears just behind that arm. So that means that when this thing goes out of alignment, if I see purple, then that means I'm going off target a little bit. I could potentially do that for the rest of these, but I kind of want to move on. So, what I'm going to have you do, make sure you have, like whatever respective animation software you have, make sure you save the original default positions at some point so you have something to go back to and copy paste from. So, like, I'm going to keep those at 1 for now, but I may move these to another frame later. So, let's see. Where's the default? Oh, that's the DF anchor. What the heck? Oh. I think I got a duplicate frame in there somewhere. That is not the DF upper arm. I'm having some weird naming issues. Sorry about this. Oh well, I'm just gonna have to roll with this. Default. Okay, I'll go just with that. Alright, so anyway. Let's get back at it. Alright, so let's take a look at what Richard Williams has to say. And what we're going to be using as our guide. Oh, here we go. So this page right here, this has to do with like mechanics of walks. And Gus has been generous enough to post some of the stuff in chat, actually, that goes a little bit more into this. Yeah, there's that, and then there's this. Let's see if these are any different. Yeah, this is the same. This is like a little compilation of the same thing. But yeah, this is the main page we're going to be using right here, and Gus has posted it in chat. So we're going to be needing to create some key poses of like the before and after here, where the arm ends up. So we're going to need to create poses a bit like these right here. Instead of having our arm ramrod straight like this, we're going to add a little bend to it. We will be changing that. So for the purposes of this, we're going to be the direction that this arm is going to be facing is that way, as if like the front of the chest is facing this way. We're looking at a walk-in profile view, I believe. So that means create new frames. Keeping the anchor point the same spot. That means duplicating for me that means duplicating the frames. Duplicate the forearm. Duplicate the upper arm. Duplicate the hand. Those all three of those get duplicated. Now I create new layers. I'm going to put the new copy frames on there. Select all three of those. Put my anchor point here. It's going to go maybe about here. Let's not make it too wide. And then remember what I said about like moving down the arm? I'm going to move down the arm a little bit, about like what Richard Williams did in his. We're not going to initially animate like this arm swing. This area here is going to be really stiff while we get the whole thing swinging on a pendulum that kind of works well for us. So I think that might be a little bit too far forward. Let's maybe bring that back a bit. So this is not dissimilar to what you can do in like Toon Boom Harmony and stuff. So this is almost kind of training for playing with puppet rigs. But this is a way to kind of mess with the mechanics of motion without getting too overcomplicated. Dipping our toes and playing with these tools.
I actually did something similar with Illustrator a couple of months back for
Oh,
a
cool.
little game project that I was working with some friends.
Yeah.
Just separate the body parts into separate layers and then just move things to create like oh, it's an animation, but not necessarily. It was more like sprite animation. Because we're just creating separate frames and then importing them into the engine.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of game animation does a lot of stuff like that too, especially when they pre-bake things like that. So then we'll move this back the other way, right here. If you have onion skinning in your program, you can turn that on to kind of get like a backswing that's about roughly about the same position, equidistant to the front swing for the upper arm anyway. So maybe that's a little bit too far back. Maybe something right here. Something that makes a little bit more visual sense for a backswing of an arm. We're not really doing anything with the forearm right here, but it's just bent where we need it to be. So those are our two keys right now. That one's looking like it might be coming forward a little bit too much for me now. So I'm gonna maybe tone it down a little bit. So I'm just gonna grab the layers that are visible, anchor it, and adjust. It seems okay. It's enough to work with for now. Maybe the backswing can come up a little bit. Just gonna try to get something that feels a little natural before we move on. Just up a little. It's good enough for me. All right, so we got our two keys right here, right? This would be a good time to identify them. And so I'm gonna put FK1, FK1, that frame, FK1, FK1. It's just like a little naming system that I made up on the spot. I should have put KF1 instead of FK1, but K2, FK2. There we go. Very simple. Now they're labeled, so now we can. Now if I change them, I'll know what they are. Almost looks like it's coming to a rest here. You probably could animate something like that. Honestly, like just have it settle at the end or something. But yeah. Okay. So now we have the two keyframes. I'm gonna take. Let's see here. Where's the anchor? The upper arm. There's the anchor. Okay. So I'm gonna take these. Oops. I'm gonna move those out somewhere over here, so they're off of where we're gonna be animating on. I'll scrunch the timeline in. Now I have these back up outside the timeline here, so those won't get played. But now we need to decide on the timing of the swing. So let's look at what Richard Williams has done. Like generally this is a walk cycle, so it's gonna be about 12 frames, I think. 12 frames for each step, something like that. So about 12 frames in or so, or 13 frames in. It's going to loop back around to about 24, I believe. Like that. Oh. Why is it blinking? Is it blinking just because it's looping? Oh, it's because of this. Okay. That's why. There we go. Looks a little stiff, but that's okay. So, now we need to create some midpoints. Let's see here. About like 7 frames in. Leave the anchor as is. And we just take if you're doing this in clip, you just duplicate the layers there. There we go. So now this is definitely not the most efficient way to animate this, by the way. This we're gonna put it about like a midpoint about here, I want to say. Sort of like the red pose in the red middle pose in Richard Williams's thing. So this is when it's going backwards. So let's duplicate this. 1, 2, 3. Well, first we'll rename these. Midpoint 1, MP1, MP2, MP3. Don't know if I'll fully in between these right now, but I just want to show. I want to get far enough in this to show you, like how you can play with these shapes and stuff to animate, to start your animations and stuff. It's about 7 here, I think. Oh, that's blank. That's a blank frame. Okay, we'll move that out of here. Wait, no, that's where it needs to be. Okay. Alright, so duplicate this. Actually, no, these all get duplicated. Okay, 1, 2. So it's probably going to be about the same position, just about, but Maybe like adjust it slightly back a bit. And the forearm then also gets a little bit changed slightly. Let's see here. Gee, there's going to be more drag in the forearm. It's coming forward. So that. All right. So that's enough to start with right there on the basic swing. It feels like it's swinging here without adding any in-betweens already. So then what we do, go back in on the hand and the upper arm. And hand and forearm, sorry. So that one's already in the right spot, I believe. This one, let's see here. Let's maybe push that forward a little bit, I want to say. And then the hand maybe go up a little bit. On the forward swing, maybe this needs to bend a little bit backwards more. Like, almost like it's almost straight, I want to say, like this. Yeah, it feels a little bit better, doesn't it? Then I'll just rotate this a bit to make more drag on the hand. But you see that already starting to feel a little bit like a swinging arm from a character that's walking. That's going to get more overly complicated from this really inconvenient way that I tried animating this by these sections in Clip Studio. I maybe should have done this in Harmony instead, because it's just going to compound the amount of frames I have to copy and paste and shit. But I wanted to show you this at the very least. Like, this is a kind of a way to get your your starting point for your animations and stuff. Like, we can add additional things like later on. Let's see here. That there. Like later on, let me throw a new animation layer in here so I can make some notes. Actually. Shit, where did I click to make an animation layer? Oh, fuck it. Well, whatever. But yeah, like using Richard Williams's guide, I can plot about where I'm going to put my in-betweens. Like if you notice, like, let's take a look here. You know, you can see where he favors either side, going back and forth, and you can see where the limbs kind of cross over themselves a bit. Like when the shoulder's coming back, this forearm comes forward a bit. Stuff. There's these little crossovers and stuff, and points where the elbow joint breaks, and so on. So you can experiment. You can use this to experiment with something like that. So hold on to this. I'm gonna challenge people to try to do this stuff from Richard Williams this week, using the shapes that we have, using an arm, basically, arm like this, basically. And they can either do like kind of a puppety posed out thing like I did, or you can just draw it all by hand. But try to have it fully in between, or if not in between, at least really clear with its keys. This is with keys and with a couple breakdowns right here. This little arm swing. Wonder if I should just like go for it. Should just like rush. I should just like draw over this and just do the in-betweens myself. Maybe I can just power through it for fun. Maybe just do that real quick. Let's see here. New animation folder. Goody. Put that one up top here. I'm gonna do that. So for this next session, this next little bit, I'm gonna do now. I'm just gonna go back in. I'm just gonna sketch over the whole thing. I'm just gonna rough this in, because I'm roughing in some animation now. I'm gonna draw over the top of the keys that I plotted in using this little swing arm method. Right here. Let's do it really, really fast. And it shouldn't take any time at all for me to kind of actually physically draw in the limbs and stuff at the in-betweens. And they can stay pretty rough. So let's see here. Should be another in-between there. Should be another in-between there. Another in-between there. Should be another in-between. 1, 2. Actually, no, those shouldn't be there. All right, so what we got in Richard Williams is that the joint is going to pop back a little bit more. So the next frame or two will be about here. Let's turn on onion skinning here. Let's maybe use blue for this. So the arm's going to be starting to go down a bit, just a little bit. So it's decelerating and accelerating. It's going to be about the same length, and it's going to be following like this kind of arc like this. And as we can see in the Richard Williams notes right here, this is going to happen. Like that wrist is going to come up like that. So the wrist is going to be about here, isn't it? Let's see what Richard Williams did. He popped up the hand a bit, didn't he? So we'll do that. Now we'll go to the other side here. This is the other side right here. So put a frame here. Let's take a look at what Richard Williams did. It's coming back. When it pops forward, it's going to do this, isn't it? So that means this frame should actually be a little bit different, shouldn't it? Like, this hand should be maybe more like this. And then as the arm starts coming forward a bit, it's going to be following the same arc right here. So let's take a look at what he did with the forearm. He popped it forward quite a bit, actually. Forearm is going to be going in like that. So it's going to be swinging off the anchor point here. Pops forward a bit like that. Let's see how that looks. I think the old frames are throwing it off a bit, so I'll turn those off. So I think I did something a little wrong here on that backswing. take a look at Richard Williams's notes again. Okay, I got it backwards, actually. So that should be an easy fix. So blue is where it's going, red was... So maybe drag that hand a little bit more. This doesn't really feel right to me. Maybe let's try this. Alright, it's feeling a little better to me. I just gotta adjust that hand now. That's not right either. Alright, I think we're getting somewhere now. Alright, so now that I got these keys and breakdowns, I'm going to start doing my in-betweens. So I'm going to get, let's get like a... Yeah, I think I'll stay with blue. Alright, so how many more frames do I need? And do I have these all in the right spot? Looks like I do, so create some halfway frames here, here. Like so. Oh, shit. It's not right. It's a frame here. Frame here. Whoops. Frame here. Frame here. Frame here. Frame here. Alright, cool. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames that I've got to draw. And we've got to remember how it's accelerating and decelerating. That means that this part of the arm right here, whoops. This part of the arm right here is going to be favoring the red for this part here, because it's accelerating. It's building up momentum here, and it's swinging along that axis there. Then this down here this one is dragging a little bit further here, but it's maintaining the same volume right here. It's being dragged along here. Actually, it's coming forward a little bit more here, I think. Swing it down like that. I fucked that up. I'll just concentrate on the upper arm for now. Just gonna get rid of that from now. Okay, so this frame's going to be a little bit closer to the green, I believe, because I'm making this when the frame's coming up that way. Going to be straight up halfway, because this is when it's kind of accelerated fully. This should maybe be rotated a bit. Maybe this should be rotated up a bit more. You see how it's starting to come to shape now. I think this should maybe come up some more here. It's a little bit much of a pop there. I don't think that feels right. Right down. Like this. There we go. That's starting to feel a little better to me. Alright, so now we'll do this. This is the arm heading that way, so it's favoring the previous frame a little bit. It's accelerating in that direction this time. Feels a little stiff there. It's not dragging enough. It needs to drag more. Like that. Maybe this frame can drag more too. Maybe it really lingers here. Let's maybe try this. I'll try something here to make it feel a little less robotic. So there we go. We got something that's kind of working. It's not perfect by any means, but yeah, I mean, using simple shapes, we plotted in something and made it have motion. So my homework this week is I want people to play with the Richard Williams stuff, to try stuff like this. Try like simple exercises of hinging joints and like playing with moving shapes around, maybe even try moving them in 3D space. If you've been working on the turnarounds, I want you to continue with those. Now that we've gone through this stuff, let's take a detour back to playing with shapes and stuff. And also, if you have anything that you've made for this so far, if you've been following along, feel free to post it in the classroom chat. So this is a very, very simple warm-up exercise. This is actually this is like me kind of like breaking the ice a little bit, but getting back into animating this stuff. Like I haven't used Clip Studio for animating them for a little while, so this is kind of me using an easy exercise as this demo, so to kind of ease back into things, because this is something that I can just confidently just jump in with. And I want to show just like how simple it is to use like these simple shapes. You can just sketch them out really quickly. You don't have to be like really precise with them. They're pretty easy to like track and measure, and you can kind of keep them on volume pretty easily. Stuff. But we're going to be using this kind of stuff in a lot more complex ways in the coming weeks, and combining it with other things. Also, if you notice what I did here, like I didn't like follow verbatim completely what Richard Williams did. I used it as a suggestion, but then I used my own judgment and stuff like of what feels right. Like this felt a little bit better for me when I adjusted it how it came out. Like this mostly works. It's following an arc. It has drag on the lower arm and knuckle and lower arm and hand and everything. So, does anyone have any questions so far? Is the homework pretty well understood what we're going to be doing this week?
I mean, I have one question. When we are animating this like arm swing, is it supposed to look like kind of like the pendulum
Yeah.
exercise where there's just
Yes.
a weight that's swinging,
Yes.
or
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
okay?
But also like keep in mind that it's an arm, so kind of make it like arm-like in how it moves, like how an actual arm or cartoon character arm would swing or something.
Yeah, that was my question. If there
Mm-hmm.
was like supposed to be an intentionality behind the arm, like
Yeah.
someone
Mm-hmm.
swinging the arm, or more like a pendulum mechanical thing.
Yeah. I kind of exaggerate how floppy that lower limb was to kind of just really upset. Like, so if there was a character that was walking like this, they'd be like kind of doing, they'd be like, I almost kind of picture like a Shaggy from Scooby Doo ish kind of character flopping their arms like this or something, just really loose, exaggerated, slacker arms or something, maybe like lurching forward while they're doing this, you know. But I exaggerated it because it shows off better and has more physicality to it. Um, when it goes back and forth like that. So I mean, like that's the assignment for this week is literally just use the Richard Williams stuff or other things you can find and try making simple animation exercises like these, using like the drawing tools that I've given you guys this week. Use them for potentially other turnarounds, but you also use them for like mechanics and like doing stuff in Richard Williams's book. You can do something. You can do like more 3D stuff, like uh, Like, remember what I showed you, that shape right here turning to 3D space right here? Like, remember that the shapes change size and shape, and they animate within 3D space. We might get into that some more this week. I'm gonna maybe hold off on doing a demo for that for now. But feel free to experiment with that. Feel free to experiment with like maybe even like stretching and pulling these shapes. Like you actually animate stretching and pulling the shapes as if they're made of taffy or something. Like just start doing like animation science experiments. You can use Richard Williams's arm swing, but I want people to maybe take their own initiative and try stuff. If something says, if you see something like, that's neat, I want to try playing with that, try doing that. And I took my sweet time like setting this up, but honestly I could have just like sketched this out like I did initially. I just haven't animated for a little while, so I wasn't sure about just going in and freehanding it. But now that I'm a little bit more warmed up, I think I would be able to handle stuff like that a lot easier. But yeah, like you can do stuff like stretch and then squash, squish. That's one frame. That's 2 frames or something like that. That's stretch, squash, then settle, or whatever. Yeah, just like use these shapes or simple shapes kind of like them. To start like playing with mechanics of stuff. And like I said, eventually we're going to be using, if not these shapes similar to them, for anatomy studies, where that means that, like, for example, we're doing something on the bicep. For example, we'll draw like an ellipse for the bicep that might stretch out and then might bulge when it compresses on either end. And we have to animate that along with like the arm that's coming up and down to make the bicep bulge or whatever. So we only got 15 viewers left right now. I guess people got a little bit bored with the demo I was doing. Oh well. But I hope that the homework is pretty understood. And I want people to
Spacedad,
yes.
I was following along the arm swing you were doing. Should I send it in the chat?
Yeah. I see Gus
Okay,
did
cool.
one. I also see that Gus did one too. Gus, that's pretty good. Try in-betweening that. Put it on 2s. Make sure it's 24 frames. And got 2 frames of exposure per drawing. And try to get it feeling pretty good. And remember to favor the frames where it's accelerating and decelerating. And if something looks off to you, scrub through it and try to figure out what's kind of looking off and adjust it. Like what you're going for is the big picture when you play it and when you're scrubbing through it. If it's feeling like it's working pretty reasonably well, then you're probably there. But yeah, Gus is it's a very wide arm swing, which is fine. You've chosen to make it that wide. This might be a character that's like really kind of like swinging his arms out. It's like taking big strides or something like that for Gus's animation that's on screen. Mosobot, let's take a look at theirs. So I think there's a bit of a jump here in the lower. Oh. So the upper arm feels like it's rattling a little bit from its anchor point, just kind of throwing it off a bit. I'm not really sure if it's tracking completely to an arc as a result of that. I think that the forearm needs to come. I think the upper arm needs to come up higher on the front swing, the back swing. The drag is on the forearm is working okay, but bear in mind you're gonna have to make adjustments to that once you adjust the upper arm too. The drag, it feels like there's a big jump happening about here, like there. But overall, like there is a sensible looseness to the drag. I think if you fix like how the anchor point's kind of wandering a bit here, and get more, I want more of a sense of I want more of a sense of a forceful, consistent pendulum, confident pendulum swing here on that upper arm, and then that'll drive the lower arm. I do think that other than that jump that's a little bit too far from me, I do get a sense of the forward and backward momentum on that forearm though. So good try, good job. Try to make some fixes. Like it should be easy to make those fixes and adjustments. Yeah. Try to get something that feels a little bit more natural. Like it feels like, it also feels like there's some frames that are jumping around a bit on the front swing too. On the upper arm, yeah. Gus's turned out really nice. I do get a sense of the swing and the momentum of this. It's hard for me to tell what side the character would be facing, but that doesn't really bother me too much. Because you could honestly just pick a direction, and that this is doing a joint break, which is just fine for a cartoony character doing an arm swing. The joint break is essentially like it's a simplification of the joint break is which Richard Williams talks about in his book. Like if you when you swing your arms, sometimes like when you're exaggerating the arm swing, you might lead with your elbow a little bit. Like you might turn your upper arm forwards and lead with your elbow a bit. That's kind of what that swing is meant to. Is meant to like what the arm break is meant to kind of caricature a bit. Which is what he's talking about here. But that joint break that happens in animation is something that wouldn't happen in real life. It's a weird cartoony simplification of kind of a similar sort of attitude, sort of swing with the exaggerated swing of the arm, where you turn your elbow, forward a bit and lead with it a little bit when you do the forward swing. So this is fine. Just pick a direction that this character would be facing. I'm gonna say maybe he's facing this way. I don't know why. But I mean, like, good job. I want to see how it looks like when it's on twos.
Okay, well, we'll do that.
Mm-hmm. And anyway, like there's plenty of there's plenty of stuff in Richard Williams' book to play with. So I'm going to encourage people this week to play with the book and use a simple stripped down shape-based system to do the exercises in the book. So you don't like overwhelm yourself with like too much information. The arm swing and pendulum exercises are really arm swing pendulum exercise stuff are really easy ones to start with. You can try different things. I mean, like you can use that on like the foot thing right here, the foot cycle, for example. You can do different kinds of arm cycle swings, like this sort of flop arm thing that he's showing right here on that one page. You can take pages like this and try creating your shapes using his keys and his arcs and stuff. And you can try these elbow joint breaks and stuff on like a baseball pitcher and this elbow joint of a character raising their arm here that he did. And like I said, take the initiative. If you see something in the Richard Williams book that you want to try, go for it. But I'm going to urge people in the direction of anything involving these kind of hand arm exercises. Read the text, and also, you know what, folks, we're going to be definitely looking at this stuff some more this next week in my Discord. we will be meeting up in my Discord a few times to kind of look at Richard Williams stuff and kind of play with stuff and like try some of the exercises using these mechanical tools we've developed for doing these exercises. It should be pretty fun. But yeah, this is our little starting point right here. This is this is like a basic application of the type of figure drawing we've been doing throughout this week of these really simple shapes. And because we have this simple shape, like we know how to break this down into anatomy stuff now too. Like we can break this down, we can carve into this thing, start adding joints and other things like that and other details in future passes and stuff. Just want to throw those up there to show you. So what do you guys think of this? This has all been a very improvised teaching method that I've been using. It's something that it's making things click with me. This sort of shape-based approach to drawing the figures that strips down the detail and lets you concentrate on masses and stuff that you can simulate impressions of mass and shape and three-dimensionality with. What do you guys think of it so far?
I like it.
Yeah, it's a fun way to draw for sure.
For sure, and also like there's not an entry barrier for people who want to learn how to animate because
Yeah.
these things are not complicated to draw.
No.
I think.
And they lend themselves to understanding anatomy too, because like if you as you get more adept at playing with these simple shapes, like it's not too much of a problem to like, take something like this and then like add or subtract mass to it. Like let's see, like I want this wrist to be a little thinner here. I want this to have more of musculature here. Something like that. This character needs to have his sleeve for his character design, like here. Like a cuff or something like that here. Stuff like that. And of course, you can also like you don't necessarily have to start with the shapes like that. You can also start with like a line of action or something, and then put your shapes on it. Have the shapes conform to the line of action in some respect, so they feel like they're going with some kind of a curvy flow to them, or something to help with the exaggeration. You can potentially like play with exaggeration like crazy with this. Like, let's put these. I'm gonna put some simple banana fingers on this guy here. Ain't that fun? That's pretty severely exaggerated, I would say. And then you can like scoot and adjust things. For example, like let's put this guy over here for more of a foreshortening effect. There. That. There we go. Now I have the severely exaggerated forearm that's either doing like a Mr. Fantastic thing or is just getting warped in the camera space or something. And we're going to be getting back into 3D grids and stuff. Don't worry about that. In fact, like, these shapes really lend themselves very well to, like, throwing up a 3D grid and then kind of playing with the shapes in the 3D space. Look at that, like these kind of, you could literally like throw up a freehand grid of some kind like this, and then try playing with putting a bunch of like oblong shapes, like these things here. Because animation at its core, especially Sakuga animation, is essentially gesture drawing. Gesture drawing in 3D space. So check that out. Look at... There's a bunch of our oblongs right here. They're being influenced by the perspective here. And they don't have to be too perfect. We're just using this to quickly freehand stuff. You can just keep building on them. You can just have fun with it. That does seem like it's going to be... This is going to be what the next step will be this next week with these shapes. Using 3D grids and stuff. I kind of just stumbled into doing this when I was playing with this just now. But this feels really natural. Because we already kind of understand how these work three-dimensionally. A little bit if you've been practicing these and having like 3D mass and volume in mind with them. I think that pushing people in the direction of creating freehand or using more kind of thought out guide grids and stuff this next week, and then putting these oblong-y shapes in them to create figures and other stuff. That might be what the next logical step is of this stuff. What do you guys think of that?
I think it sounds fun and probably kind of hard too.
Well, that's the thing. We're not making it... Well, I mean, it's going to be challenging. And probably a little hard, yeah. But
Yeah,
we're gonna be making it fun. Like this, like the whole point of why I came up with this system was to make it fun to draw 3D masses and create stuff, forms in space, and it becomes a productive tool that's also really fun to use.
Yeah.
It's easy, like you don't get as lost using something like this. Like you always have something to grab onto.
I would suggest that if you started doing Drawbox lessons, like you were talking about, a couple of, and like put the two together, like Drawbox to.
I agree.
Yeah, because people would be studying their sense of 3D shapes,
Yeah.
while at the same time doing Drawbox.
Let's make sure we take a peek at Drawbox this next week. I want to kind of take a look at it. I don't know if I'll commit to like fully like diving into studying it, but I did talk to some of the people in the Drawbox Discord. They strongly recommend using the materials that they suggest from it instead of doing the digital version. Although you can try to like use an approximation of the digital tools too. But they recommend the traditional stuff, so that's why I kind of held off on that. But yeah, let's take a look at the Drawbox stuff this next week. Please remind me next time we're meeting in a study session in my Discord that's off Twitch, so that we can give that a go. Yeah, these shapes are going to be hella fun to just play with and mess with. And like I said, like these things are modular, so like as you start to understand these, you'll start to understand other shapes too, and like other anatomical forms. Like you'll start to be able to mold and craft into like something that's more like well, like this. That's why I've had this on screen, because stuff like this is what we're aiming towards. Not just for storyboards, but also for rough animation as well. This is storyboard. This is storyboard animatic right here. It counts as Genga though. This is essentially almost like storyboard pseudo rough animation ish. But yeah, let's see here. Do they have any core that's rough? Let me see if they have any core roughs. They got plenty of animatics, but did they have any roughs? Nope. Animatic. Storyboard, animatic, damn. Let's see, the Hades, trailer has some roughs that show off what I'm talking about pretty well. Let's get a few of these here. So this is by Wailing Zhang, this shot here. It's really nice. I think there's another one of the roughs here. Let me find it. There we go. Same shot. Oh, no, different shot. Sorry. This one's by Chanzi Wong. But this one shows off the same idea of what we're doing with like those 3D masses and stuff. But you can see that he's using a different shape language from these. That's more kind of a simplified mannequin with more kind of anatomy-based stuff in there. But it's the same kind of understanding of 3D objects and stuff. You could basically like break this down the same with the same kinds of shapes that we're using right now. It's just as you can use these to kind of sort through stuff and start to understand how hands and arms and limbs work as you start learning more about anatomy too. Like these oblongs that we've been drawing are your spatial awareness starter pack, basically, for eventually working up to doing something like this. So I did promise we were going to take a look at some Sakugaburo stuff. So I did have some things in mind, but let's take some chances on finding just random stuff to just check out for fun here. What's this? Some really old school. Some people are posting some old. What the hell is this? What? Huh? What the? Huh?
This looks like something from a creepypasta, honestly.
This looks like an official thing. What? I'm so confused. When was this? This looks like it was made in the 90s. Invasion of the Bunny. Invasion of the Bunny. Invasion of the Bunny Snatchers. It's a Bugs Bunny short made in 1992. Okay. So this is like I think this is the joke here is that this is a fake Daffy Duck replacement. And the joke with him is that he's full of animation errors. Like I think that's on purpose right there. Yeah, it's all on purpose. It's all animation errors on purpose. They even have him do like a clutch cargo thing. Yeah, this was made in 1992. Holy shit. Jesus Christ. I think they're taking the piss out of like shitty TV animation too. A little bit. Is there anything else here? I don't know. Yeah, it looks like they're taking the piss out of shitty quality TV animation there. Alright, let's see if we can find some Ginga. Let's go randomly through here. Oh, Horus, Prince of the Sun. That's a really groundbreaking, like, I think that was like the first modern anime film. Oh, that's cool. There's a rolling flip of BNA. Oh, this is from BNA. Look at that. This is what animators do when they're checking their frames traditionally, flipping through the drawings and stuff. Although in this case they're just kind of showcasing it. They're not really rolling and flipping. To really, because if they roll and flip through it, they flip through it fast enough to be able to see the motion a little bit more. The equivalent of doing that is like scrubbing through the timeline in digital animation. This is more cleaned up stuff from Fate Grand Order. very clean up. I want to like, see if we can find some really rough stuff. Oh, that's just a still frame. Really nicely drawn still frames though. See if we can find some horror stuff. I doubt we'll find any rough animation, but we can find some of the like. I think Hayao Miyazaki animated on this film. So it's like, God, when was this made? Horus, Prince of the Sun. 1968. 1968, and this is arguably the first modern anime. In turn, like it has like almost all like the techniques established in it that you'll see like in Ghibli productions years later. Artist unknown, but a lot of these are Miyazaki and his compatriots. It's wild. That geezer's still making movies. He kept saying he was gonna retire. He's making another movie now. It's great. Yeah, Horus Prince of the Sun is a must-watch anime. There's the giant fish fighting scene in the film. If I can find, if it's in here somewhere, is with the entire giant fish fighting sequence is like fucking amazing for the time, and even by today's standards, it's fucking amazing. Here it is. So as you're watching this, like pay attention to like the size and the depth of the size and the weight of the giant fish that he's fighting, and the sense of presence it has. Got a little weightless there for a moment when he landed, but that's yeah. This is where this part in particular right here. This scene, this shot right here. Jeez. Yeah, this shot right here. Holy shit. This is like a that shot like the stuff leading up to it is great, but this one right here. Damn. And this was made in fucking 1968, folks. By like the pioneers of this kind of the wolf fighting sequence. This one is really like pushed and dynamic. You can see them almost kind of like fighting against the limitations of their understanding of this craft that they're developing too. I think a lot of this is by Miyazaki in these shots. Yeah, that I think that was Miyazaki right there. Also, I just want to point this out. So the kid's character design in this. Look at how simple he gets, like right here. He almost turns into kind of Astro Boy for a moment. But look at how simple his character design is. Like, he can break this down into simple shapes pretty easily. There's not a huge amount of detail. Most people here would probably not have a huge amount of difficulty drawing his character design, especially if they use like the 3D shapes that we're using. But this is an example of like, if you want to like practice good motion in your animation, come up with character designs that are very simple. In this case, this kid, like, his body is simplified because his body becomes one big mass of that fur. It's like one simple torso shape. His feet are simplified by those kinds of like little bun shaped Astro Boy feet, and long cylinders kind of. His arms are a little bit more closer to anatomy arms, but they're very simple shapes too. And you can also see like the elbow joint is handled as a little circle there. He's simple and expressive. He goes off model an awful lot in this, but that doesn't matter because like the overall, even when he goes off model, like the overall feeling of the scene is what matters. Look at that. Look at how simple that arm is right there. Like you could use character designs like it. Like this character design isn't too far off from being like a rubber hose character in some regards. It's just rubber hose character with more anatomy kind of layered into it. So right here, this is a principle of contrast and posing. So he's got his arm over there, he's about to hit him, and on this next frame right here, bam. So if you're going to have like contrasting frames with like fast action or limited animation, contrast the frames. Head up, head down. Arm back, arm into the body. Shoulders anticipating, shoulders pushing the arm forward. And then more contrast right here. The arm way up. Let's pay attention to this right here. Watch his swinging arm throughout this entire sequence here. So start like this. His arm swings up to the top of the frame. It goes clockwise, swings back around clockwise into the wolf there, swings clockwise back upward again, then it lingers for a bit, and he swings it counterclockwise, it looks like. And he flings it counterclockwise in the other direction because he's dealt with this wolf and dealt with both these wolves in this kind of clean singular motion, reacts off camera to the wolves that are coming at him, and flings flings or swings the axe. Yeah, he swings the axe. Swings the axe right at the camera. In fact, like we the audience kind of get cut a little bit. And there's a match cut to the wolf getting slashed across the face. I like how like these wolves are also handled really simply too, so that lends themselves to like the animators getting really expressive with them. Bonk. Wow. But yeah, I mean, if you want to see the roots of like where Studio Ghibli developed their animation techniques, of course, The Prince of the Sun. There's also several other things that were made around that time where you can see the rudimentary beginnings of modern anime, basically. This anime actually gets cited in Keep Your Hands Off My Aizokin, by the way. There's several animes that get cited in that as inspiration for the characters in the show. Somebody's asking some questions in Discord. Pose with an elbow, like Astrocore. Yeah, kind of. Although it's like pose with an elbow, but just like a very, very slightly spin of anatomy on it. That's what's fun. Like, it's kind of what we're doing with these shapes here. Like, we're essentially kind of doing like an advanced version of that a little bit. Or kind of oblong shapes. Let's see if I can find a sheet. Oh, here we go. We're taking like simple shapes, and then we can modify them to make them more anatomical. So I can find a good example here. These are easy. These are like something easy to wrap your head around for just about anything, really. But there's nothing keeping you potentially from, like, if you're memorizing a particular character design that's kind of like a character in this vein. There's nothing keeping you from, whoops, there's the horror stuff. But yeah, there's nothing keeping you from using like a modular shapes, like those kind of Lego log things that we've been using, those Lego clay logs things that we've been using as your means of understanding what the hell you're drawing or looking at. And then, whoa, what the That's really cool. I watched this film a long ass time ago, and I barely remember most of it. I've only like seen like select clips from it and stuff. So I really want to rewatch this sometime. But yeah, you can use like this modular system as a way of kind of understanding the kind of spatial awareness that you need in order to do characters like this. And then you can graduate from using something like that to memorizing a character like this, that you would be animating animating them with more complex shapes, or shapes that are specific to his design and stuff. So I could see, like, if let's pretend that we were animating this dude here, like we just like we create shapes that are kind of similar to his character model, and then just modify them to the proportions to get us in the starting point. And then at some point, we probably start to digest a little bit more of like how his character model works and how the specifics of his arms work and things like that. And once we start getting more used to that, then like our initial sketching starts looking a little bit closer to his character model. Just as an example. But you can see, like, here, like you can see like the three-dimensionality of this character, like even here. You can kind of plot like if you put like pretend you've got some spheres here for where his shoulders are. You can kind of like see how this was thought through three-dimensionality as a figure. Like there's one shoulder's up here, the other shoulder's behind his body because the top plane of the shoulder is tilted away from us. Back over there, that other shoulder would be a ball like back around here. And the shoulder right here would be a ball there. Let's take a look and see what else Hayao Miyazaki stuff there is here. Some Lupin stuff. There's a lot of still frames and storyboards from his stuff. Oh yeah, this is some of his work he did on Samurai Giants. We'll take a look at a few more Miyazaki shots before we close out for the evening. I think that would be a good point to end on, especially because look at this kind of animation here. It actually uses a lot of like kind of stretchy shapes similar to what we're drawing. Let's take a look at the close-up of that pitch here, where the fingers are right in the camera. Or just everything. Look at that pose right there. But you can see, like, this pose is, you could break this down into our cylinder and oblong shapes and stuff. Good timing for this being on screen here on the left side here, by the way. But you can see, like, you could break this down into our oblong shapes and stuff and have it make sense as a big kind of sculptural 3D thing that's following kind of an energetic gesture. There's this kind of stretch happening here with that leg up there, that kind of exaggerated posing there, and the foot comes right in the frame. Dang, you can see the cleats. You can see the cleats in the foreground, and they even bothered to make the cleats track to like the curve of the bottom of the foot right there. And you can see how the curve of the foot is signified just for a split second from like the top of the cleats. The angle of the top of the cleats are in 3D. That's just on screen just for a split second. But look how this these stretch. Holy shit! This is animated by Miyazaki. I don't know when this was made. It was probably had to be like the 70s or something. That is so good. That hand right there. Jeez. I love this keyframe right here. Just to that curvy bend of the arm. Everything right here like that. You can see him leading with his feet. Like the power of the baseball pitch comes from the feet leading up to the arm. It's really cool. Let's see if we can find any other stuff by Miyazaki. What time is it? It's pretty close to quitting time. Let's take a look at a few more Miyazaki shots. These are really fun. This is something from the Lupin TV series, I believe. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is definitely, well, it's Miyazaki and someone else, apparently. I do like how, like, rough and sketchy this gets here. Looks like they literally just Xeroxed the rough sketches into the animation drawings, and it works for this. Gives it kind of a rough, violent feel. There we go. I think there's some good poses here. Well, there's a good pose like right at the beginning here. That, before he like flips out like that. That's this is Miyazaki on a very limited budget, but doing great poses. Here's another one. It's a very limited animation, like very limited animation take right there. Jeez. Ding ding ding. Those expressions, though. I think some of these might be repeating bits of animation. Yeah, like I think some of this is repeating some animation from. Whoa. Actually, no. I take that back. This is new. Look at this. Jesus Christ. Let's just appreciate this real quick. I mean, that's a really nice exaggerate, that curve right there to the glove. that stuff. Scrunched down on the head. The intensity of his gaze. He's raising his arms in the foreground right there. Arms high up. Body up straight. Body leaning back. There's like kind of a held cell right here for a little while. Then here he comes. So this is kind of like a curve up like that, and then I change like a little right angle right there. Whoops, to that pose for the line of action there. And he starts raising his leg up and bringing his arm down to anticipate the throw. Really kind of ballet pose, twinkle toe looking thing there. Leaning back. Really, really putting power behind the ball in the anticipation. Here he comes. You can see like there's that crease in his back right there where we can kind of feel his shoulder blades and stuff. At that leg straight up. There's this really great sense of the line of action through the whole pose. The leg is starting to lead in with the power that's going to propel the ball. Lovely curve on his arm there. Wow. Check this out. Look at this. That is a smear and multiple right there. So there's a smear happening right here on this arm here. A little bit of kind of a smear on his body, I would say, very slight. But mainly there's a smear happening on his glove arm. That's kind of distorted a bit. And coming really close to the camera, so it's also exaggerated. In its proportionate size. This arm back here is a multiple. The ball there and the ball there. Of the double arm thing. And it just happens for a split second. So I think something's off about the frame rate that they or the timing of the frames they chose there, because I feel like these poses should be reading stronger than they do. So maybe like some slight adjustment to the timing of some of these might help. Like, I would almost want to like see what will happen if we held on this frame just a little longer or something. I don't know, or if there was like a little bit more of a smoothing between that. Let's see here. That's on 2s. Now that's really severely off model. He looks like a very different proportioned character just for that shot, but that's okay because of the amount of smearing and exaggeration going on with this entire dynamic scene. Swiping into the camera there. And I think they repeat the animation here, don't they? Yes, they do. So I think the timing on those is kind of detracts from the amazing posing in that. But I think it was pulled off. I think the posing timing was pulled off a little better in this one, if I recall. Let's take a look. Oh, there's a pause before he actually throws. But I think it was pulled off a little better there. I just would have wanted, like, instead of a hard cut like this, I would have wanted more of like the lingering after, maybe a frame or two of the lingering after effects of his foot coming up or something like that. No, it works better now. I've seen it in full context. I think this looks a little robotically timed though. Like, Like this could have used a little smoothing right here. When he does like that kind of like, when he does like that right there, that could have used just a little smoothing. This and like when he brings his hands up like there, like maybe like if it held here a little bit more before he came up like that. I almost kind of want to like take this into a program and then like play with adjusting the timing and see if it strengthens Miyazaki's poses. Be an interesting experiment to try. I've seen animators do that before actually, where they'll take an existing animation or even live action for that matter, and then they'll try adjusting the timing to see how that changes the perception of it. So I feel like there's some things happening that actually happens in a lot of like rush productions and like TV productions and stuff. Sometimes like they didn't have enough time to like fully polish the shot the way that they would have wanted. So there's like stuff like that might be looking like a little more robotic than they might have meant to, even though the poses are really nicely designed. But this is the shot I'm thinking of. Yeah, it is. There we go. Miyazaki's famous moving camera shot from Lupin right there. Brilliantly designed shot right there. Brilliantly staged too. It's presumed to be Miyazaki. No, this is a Miyazaki shot. What's this? Oh, the Gulliver's Travels anime. This is very old school. This is like definitely 1960s or something. Miyazaki only had the idea for the scene. The actual animation was apparently made by someone named Makoto Nagasawa. Oh, Animal Treasure Island. This is a film I've been meaning to see too. This is also a 1960s, I believe, anime. And if you want to see the roots of where stuff like One Piece come from, there's a few films like this back in the day of old school anime. But this film is almost kind of like a lot of the template of stuff for like One Piece. And yeah, this is Hayao Miyazaki work. I've seen quite a few clips from this, and there's a lot of really fun, creative stuff. I mean, like they had the vibrancy and the creativity that you see in modern Ghibli movies, all the way back then. Like all the stuff that you take for granted as being a very modern thing. Now I mean, just look at this shot. Look at just how modern that is. Look at like they handled the perspective on the fucking cannons there. And the timing here of how he's climbing up there. When was this made? Animal Treasure Island. It had to be in the 60s, right? Or the 70s. Treasure Island. Miyazaki. 1971. So it was after Horus. Or the Prince of the Sun, or whatever. Anyway, we're gonna call it a night, or call it a day right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed looking through some Miyazaki stuff for inspiration and thinking about how this stuff applies to what we're going to be working on in the coming weeks. Like, remember to play with like those basic shapes a lot. Play with adding line of action to them. Play with modifying them. Play with animating them. And just to recap, the homework for this week is to take Richard Williams stuff, or any. I would prefer Richard Williams with like his arm swing stuff, any of his arm swing tutorial things. Try those, but try anything that seems interesting to try using either of the shapes that we practiced this week or something kind of similar to these kind of really basic shapes. These basic modular shapes that we've been using for making figures, and that we're going to keep practicing this next week. And also, I would encourage people to start dipping their toes in using 3D grids to place these shapes in and play with them and stuff. Start playing with those, because we're going to be getting into that next week for sure. And also the people who started their turnarounds and who I gave critique to, keep working on them. And if you want to do it, if you haven't done a character turnaround yet, and want to do that for this week, give it a shot. You might want to maybe try warming up with doing some smaller things involving like turning around like these kind of oblong forms or simple shapes kind of in this vein this week, before you get into that though, because then that might give you a stronger start when you get to doing a 3D character turnaround. And also, I'm going to strongly encourage, if you do a turnaround, try to keep the shapes very simple. Try to maybe use a character that has a very simple design to them. Like on my Spacedad right here. This is actually maybe even more complicated than you might want to go. But I used very basic shapes. This is like a earlier, cruder version of those kinds of sausage form shapes that we're using, like especially on the legs here. But same kind of idea. Just get something like this working this next week. So yeah, again, to recap, work on a turnaround if you've done the homework and stuff, or if you want to work on a turnaround. Do basic shape animation exercises using like Richard Williams's arm stuff, or anything else you can think of that might be good to do. And also optionally, play with the 3D grids like this as just kind of a warm up to kind of dip your toes in as preparation for what we're going to be doing this next week. So, with that said, I'll let you guys go. Our next meeting, of course, will be 5:30 p.m. Monday. Just to recap for anyone who's just walking in here, I teach classes on Twitch. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Saturday is 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. And I am assigning homework again this week of using these simple shapes that we've learned today to do animation exercises from Richard Williams, or whatever else strikes your fancy that you want to use. Feel free to take initiative and try stuff out and play with it and have fun. So, that said,
Okay.
let you guys all
Thanks
go.
for the class, man.
Yes. Oh,
And have a good Saturday.
Before I go, any last minute questions?
Could you take a look at the new version of the arm swing that I uploaded? I put it in. I did the Inbetweens.
Yeah, let's take a peek.
And
I also
change
see
the motion
Gus
wheel.
is trying to do a cube. There's some problems
These,
there's some problems with the cube. I would want Gus maybe to yeah, it's kind of like looking like it's slowing down, and it's also kind of warping a little bit. I think that, Gus, the best way to handle a cube, I don't know. Well, we'll get into that later. I actually might want to assign how to animate a cube in the future. But these are tricky. But like the best way to animate a cube is to actually animate the vanishing points that the cube goes to.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do like a vanishing point cube, but if you have an approximation of how a cube works from a vanishing point, I think that Gus's sense of spatial awareness will have improved by doing this. But yeah, you can kind of see like how it's kind of like slowing a bit, especially in the back. and stuff, and it's kind of warping a bit and changing size. So I think something that might help Gus is uh, maybe try this again, but use a cheat of maybe just like go into Blender and make a like a rotating cube reference image. Then maybe you can rotoscope, and this is just be for your own exercise, so you can you can understand spatial awareness a little bit better. Then maybe do like a rotoscope of it, but do it piece by piece. Do it plane by plane, and do like a kind of like an X-ray thing. So you're animating the individual planes of the cube rotating in space. You could do this for your own benefit, basically. It'll improve your sense of consistency and spatial awareness. That's just a suggestion a suggestion of something you could try. But good attempt. I would say just keep.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
The Blender things. I think that's a good practice.
Yeah, I mean, like when it comes to animating cubes and stuff, it just comes down to measurement, or eyeballing it if it looks strange. Like if you're doing a freehand version of this, you can kind of fix the parts that seem a little bit wonky and off when you are able to eyeball them. So let's see. Gus has another thing of the arm. Oh wow, turned out pretty good. There's a little bit of adjustment on this swing over here somewhere that I might make, but it's hard for me to pin down what. I need to go back into that. Overall, it's working great. I think you did a great job with this, though. So, yay! You know, you can play with stuff like this more. Like you can, I guess you can like you look at Richard Williams' stuff and try out some of the stuff from it, play with it, see what happens if you like change the timing of stuff like this. So like how would this look, for example, if the character was like really mad and really swinging their arm really nastily or something like that, you know? Like, think about stuff like that. You could try that, or you could try some of the other Richard Williams stuff. Just do whatever you can to like play with animating. Can we have your 3D shape grid as practice as a reference in the Discord? No. Because they are not very good. They were just quick freehand things. You should be able to find a 3D reference grids online, and I need to do some more prep before I can really confidently give out stuff and assignments for that. But I'm just telling people, just take your own initiative to play with that. Maybe look for some perspective grids to use as your own reference to play with those. Like I don't know, like you can Google image search perspective grid 3-point, something like this. Then you just find random things like this, or you can use any kinds of tools that you have available to create perspective grids, and then start like just fill it up with like tons of oblong sketches, oblong shapes that kind of follow the vanishing points and take up the mass in there. Just play with it. Yeah. So, I'm gonna let you guys go now.
All right. See you next time, Spacedad. Thanks for the class.
Thanks
Bye,
for the
Spacedad.
class.
Bye bye.